Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's content is going to be how to help you discover your hidden gifts. And this question, asked in various different ways, has been asked of me by my clients over the years, and so I'd like to comment about it. That may involve some channeling. I'm not quite sure, but I hope you do get something out of this. So, many times when clients have asked me to ask the guides, how they can open or unlock their gifts, many times what they're talking about is, how can I open my channels? Not always. We'll talk about another aspect of this in just a second, but, how can I become more intuitive, more knowing? And sometimes that intuitiveness, people want to know, how can I channel clearly? How do I know if I'm channeling? How can I become more clairvoyant and have the senses clairsentient and my clairs open? And a very brief initiation into this concept I've heard for many years now is, light enters more easily in a light room. That's Archangel Michael's one of his statements or theses about vibration. So what we are really talking about in some sense is vibration, and the higher you vibrate, the easier it is to have your channels open to greater awareness. And the ways that one can raise their vibration are many and multiple fold. And the ways that we can diminish our vibration, likely, conversely, there are many ways to do this. So again, if you want to fall back on something, you take away something from this brief audio, and that is, light enters more easily in a light room. So some people by nature have come in a higher vibrational state. So if we're talking about gifts of awareness, they by nature have those channels open. Doesn't mean if you didn't come in a higher vibrational state that you can't, of course. Some of this dialogue we're creating here has to touch upon things that were done to keep us separate from having all of our channels open. And some of that was done millions of years ago by forces outside of light. They intentionally disrupted or disturbed the human DNA in a variety of means to keep us separate from our all-God knowing, all-God being. And when we're talking about that particularly, that's an aspect that can affect how easily a person, easily and really accurately, I guess I could add to that, have their intuitive gifts open. Perhaps I should have channeled or started off, or titled this recording, How Do I Open My Intuitive Gifts? And because, of course, we all have gifts. Sometimes if clients are asking us about gifts in a different way, they're looking for what they really want to know is, what is my purpose in life? And sometimes there's an overlapping of these ideas, my gifts, what am I here for? How can I be a more complete knowing individual for myself and in some cases for others? And so there are some other teaching about, understanding your gifts might have to do with, am I aware of my soul purpose? Because having that awareness can grant a great deal of clarity, direction, unlock or help guide a person to the gifts. If your gifts are creative, if your gifts are analytical, so the word, gifts by nature is kind of open to a wide interpretation. But I did want to talk about it briefly here because, again, it comes up in various forms and has over the years. So, and particularly as we keep awakening as a planet and individuals, the restoration of all knowing, all being, all seeing, that's well underway, and it will continue. It will continue and continue. However, individually, if you're in a state of any of the lower frequencies, anger, depression, sadness, grief, remorse, and you stay in those states of mind frequencies in your mental bodies, your light bodies, and your physical bodies, etc., then in most cases it is going to be more difficult to make those types of connections, the intuitiveness connections. And so back to Michael's wonderful, what would be the word, tagline almost, of light enters more easily in a light room. Those of you that are listening that might want to, hear how do I do this? Of course, there are many ways. Some of the ways are gems. Sometimes people use gems. Sometimes we ask people to use crystal bowl tone to start to raise the frequency in their homes, for example. Sometimes, of course, there are many more highly evolved crystals that are coming to our planet that are charged that a person can use to help open and raise your vibrations. Certainly you want to try to fortify your fields. And the fortification of a field, in simplest terms to me, has to do with being love and kind to yourself and others, being grateful to yourself and others, being in a joyful state, extending that joy onto others. Again, if we go back to the very basics of we're energy beings, and energy beings can collect dust, whether the dust is from others, whether the dust we create by our own thinking, whether dust comes from implants from Anunnakis and other nefarious beings, or where the dust collects from, are all of the ways that the dust might collect. It is also very important to realize that cleansing of one's light bodies is another way to really kind of shake off the lower frequencies that can keep a person from realizing their full gifts. And if you've not heard me state this before, Michael has said it surprises him very much that human beings change the oil in their cars more often than they consider refreshing their light bodies. And the same thing he often says about our homes. It's surprising to him that we don't often think about elevating the space we live in, which is a container of various densities created by the thoughts, words, actions, and deeds, stated and unstated. In fact, he tells us most homes are like dirty ovens that have never been cleaned. So if you're in a place of wanting to discover your truer self, in a sense, that we're talking about today, think about crystal and bold tone. Think about having your light bodies refreshed. Think about and do more than think. Words carry power. Do everything in your mind, body, spirit power to use high vibrational words. Be in the act on the concepts of generosity and love, expression of love, the receiving of love, joy. Intend that your life has many joyful experiences in it, peaceful experiences in it. So, again, I hope this brief teaching, I guess we'll call it, about helping you understand that we all have gifts. They present themselves in many, many ways, and sometimes they're covered up. So if you feel in that space reach out to the teaching contained here and regularly provide yourself with positive thoughts, positive thinking. Affirmations come into play quite often when we talk about counseling a person to help them open their channels so that they can see what their truest gifts are. All right, friends, I hope you got something out of this, and many blessings to you always.